Joining the conversation this morning is Stifel chief economist Lindsey Piegza, along with Fox Business's Dagan McDowell, Washington Examiner columnist, and Republican pollster Kristen Solzhenitsyn, and Forbes media chairman, former presidential candidate himself, Steve Forbes. Great to see everybody this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to see you.
Good morning.
Lindsey, let's kick it off with you. We've got the jobless numbers coming out this morning. How much of this bad news is priced into the market? What do you expect?
That's right. We could see another 2 to 3 million Americans filing for first-time unemployment insurance. Now, the market has already anticipated that increase, but it is a reminder of the dire economic scenario that we find ourselves in as a result of the policies forcing businesses to remain closed for weeks and workers to remain within their homes. So every time we do see this type of disappointing economic data, it does take a toll on the market. But again, most of this is already priced in. We also heard from the Federal Reserve yesterday talking about the extraordinary contraction expected in the second quarter. And this morning's number is just another reminder that we could see a 30% drop in GDP.
Yeah, 30% contraction, pretty steep. Steve Forbes, what do you look for? What's most important here, Steve?
What's most important now, Maria, is creating an environment where this economy can start to really recover. That's why it's good these states are opening up, especially the good moves you see in Florida, Georgia, Colorado with the Democrat governor and elsewhere. But also you're going to have to focus on what's Congress going to do about still the lack of loans to many small and medium-sized businesses. Treasury's put on a lot of conditions which they could remove, especially for small businesses. And what's ultimately going to come in a bill from Congress. I know the GOP is saying they're going to slow walk the thing, but a bill will be passed. And will we get liability immunity in it? And will there be some sort of holiday on the payroll tax, which would be immediately stimulative to the economy in both job creation and increasing worker pay?
Yeah, you've called it a 7% raise, right? And when I spoke with the president last week, he seemed to be on board that would be a pretty good stimulus boost, Steve, the payroll tax cut holiday. Lindsey, what do you think the view of all of this stimulus has been? I mean, you're talking about $10 trillion upwards of when you look at what is coming out of the Congress as well as the Federal Reserve and its leverage there.
Absolutely. And I think there's no doubt that something needed to be done. We needed to see unprecedented support for the U.S. economy, as we just talked about, nearly 40 million Americans filing for unemployment insurance. But there is a balance here. We have to make sure that we leave the economy in a position where we can reach productive capacity in the longer run. Right now, we're concerned that valuable resources, savings, income are being depleted and in some cases extinguished, leaving us at a very depleted level in terms of being able to get the economy back on track. So we want to make sure that we don't use too many resources, put on too much debt for the U.S. economy, leaving us in a crippled position longer run. Now, I know the Federal Reserve Chairman said this is not something that we want to be concerned in the short term. This is something that we want to be concerned about during the good times, putting funds away for that rainy day. But we didn't do that leading up to the pandemic. And so, unfortunately, we were already strapped with massive amounts of debt. Now we're talking about layering on trillions more of debt, and the U.S. economy may be in a very crippled position when we do eventually emerge from this pandemic.
Yeah, well, I mean, the amount of debt right now, $22 trillion, is actually higher than the overall size of the economy. You mentioned the Fed minutes expressing concern that the coronavirus is posing a severe threat to the economy. Officials there said that it is still more uncertainty to come as the economy recovers. And Jay Powell will speak again later today. But the severe contraction that he talked about in the second quarter, of course, that's where we are right now, Lindsey. Do you think we'll see growth in the third quarter?
Well, we could see growth in the third quarter. We could see actually an uptick in GDP by about 8 to 10%. But I caution the view of a V-shaped recovery, as we are likely to see negative growth reemerge by the end of the year, either because of lingering restrictions on the consumer, be that either health fears or crippled finances. But we could also see these downside risks to the economy emerge if we do see a second round flare-up, which many health officials, and as we saw in the Fed minutes yesterday, that there still is a lot of concern that the virus will not disappear, but simply go into hibernation during some of the warmer summer months to reappear by the end of the year.
Well, that's the worry, right? Jump in here, Kristen, because if we were to see it come back in the fall, we're sort of back to square one, aren't we?
We are, and we still see in polls that people are very worried that they or a loved one will still get the coronavirus. That fear is still out there. And so even as these states begin to reopen and people begin to test the waters of going back to restaurants, et cetera, folks are not going to board an airplane if they're worried they're going to get COVID-19. They're not going to go to a restaurant or sit at a bar or go to a theme park if they're worried they're going to get the virus. And so the fact that we've gone 2 months, and if people don't feel confident that we're beginning to develop test, trace, isolate capabilities, we may not see the economy come back in full force very quickly as long as that fear still exists.
All right, we will leave it there. We're expecting more retail earnings today, by the way. We're waiting on Best Buy, BJ's, and TJX companies all reporting before the bell. So we will bring those numbers to you as soon as they hit the tape, get another window into what's going on with the retail situation here. Thank you, Lindsey Piegza. Great to see you this morning. Thanks, everybody. Let's slip into a short break. We're just